freedom through real estate. And I'm very excited. Thank you, Jaden.
Yeah, so thank you, AJ. Like he said, we're going to talk about how to build meaningful wealth at an early age and doing it through real estate. So, like, why am I here? Why am I talking to you guys about it? Like I said, my name is Jaden George. I'm a student here. I'm a junior finance major. Currently, multifamily real estate investor. Started a company called Horizon 10 Properties in February of last year. And then also buyinglifeback.com after graduating high school is just a personal finance blog. This is what that looks like. So a little bit of backstory about myself. This time around 3 years ago, I picked up the book. It was called The Book on Rental Property Investing by Brandon Turner. So if you can't tell what it was about rental property investing. And it was after that, it was the idea of financial independence and kind of retiring early, using my time more efficiently, and doing the stuff that matters most to me, more to me, became this idea that was very, it spread like wildfire. I mean, it resonated with me at a high level, and I really it almost became an obsession. Like I started reading a lot of books, started listening to a lot of podcasts. That summer I was working at a warehouse 40 hours a week, and instead of music I was listening to podcasts about real estate, about financial independence on 2x speed, just drinking from a fire hose, and some of it stuck, believe it or not. So, or actually I'll go back. So this was the website that I built after graduating high school, buyinglifeback.com, and we'll get into a little bit about the meaning behind that title. But it was really just, like I said, a personal finance blog specifically about achieving financial independence. And we will talk about what financial independence is itself. And then fast forward a couple of years to about February of last year, I started Horizon 10 Properties, which is going to be my real estate investing kind of company. And so right now we're at 4 residential units valued at just under $500,000. And going forward, we're going to become a syndication company, which we will get into what that means there at the end. But essentially that means scaling a lot quicker through third-party investors' money to then be able to buy larger real estate and scale quicker, and kind of economies of scale that way. And again, we're going to get into all that. So we're going to be talking about anyone's road to $1 million. Kind of a simple equation. Why $1 million? Why, like, I guess the purpose behind building meaningful wealth at all, and then also why using real estate to do that. We're going to talk about real estate strategies, and with each of those strategies, case studies with real numbers, so you guys understand kind of how the numbers work, and real examples of them in the real world. And then after that, next steps for you guys to get started yourselves on your journey. So first, I would argue that all of you guys, without exception, should have $1 million in your lifetime. It's actually a simple equation. All you need is $500 a month, security that yields 6% annually, and 40 years. So, thank you guys. Y'all been great. No, but actually, so why am I here then? If that's the case, it's because I have a problem with that. And the problem that I have with that graph is the timeline. It's the 40 years. Waiting 40 years to build, if we can all agree that 7 figures is meaningful wealth, which I guess we could argue that, but let's just assume it is. Why do we have to wait 40 years for that? And in order to fully understand my problem with that idea, we have to understand kind of why build wealth at all. I guess to restate, kind of my problem with that 40 years is I don't want to have to take the risk of clocking in 40 hours a week, 40 of the best hours of the week, for the next 40, I would argue, of the best years of my life, to an unfulfilling job or something that I don't find meaningful and fulfilling. I'd much rather build meaningful wealth much quicker and on my own terms. And in order for you guys to really understand my problem with that, you have to understand kind of why build wealth in the first place. So I would pose the question to you guys. What if money wasn't an obstacle? Like, what if money was just no issue? What would you guys do? Also, what kind of impact could you guys have, not only on your family tree for generations to come, but also your community surrounding you? Maybe even a stranger, someone that you've never met before. Like, what if your personal financial position was no longer a source of stress in your life? What if it was actually a source of change for the better for the world? And it can be. And so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is time. And so this is when we start talking about financial independence. What financial independence is it's the idea, it's the point at which your passive returns, like your investment returns, actually exceed your living expenses. So if you can imagine that for a second, imagine that you no longer have to go to work, right? You don't need that paycheck because your investments are now paying you how much you spend in a given year, meaning that you now have freed up all of your time. And when I say that, we also have to talk about what financial independence is not. Financial independence is not sitting on the beach drinking Mai Tais. That's fun for about 4 days. After that, it gets kind of old, and you start to. We as human beings, we have to have an aim. We have to have a purpose. This is where psychology kind of comes into the whole thing, because we are aiming creatures. We have to have kind of a purpose in life, and so financial independence is about taking that purpose away from kind of a third party, a job, right? Our full-time jobs, where like a large percentage of Americans do not find their full-time job fulfilling. And so it's about taking that and taking our purpose into our own hands and using our time to maybe start a business, the business of our dreams, or maybe even start a nonprofit, because it's no longer about the money, right? We have the money coming in from different sources. So think about like a cause near and dear to your heart. What if you could actually start a nonprofit, right? That would be able to fund anything that cause would need. Or maybe you have an occupation that has been your dream occupation since 3rd grade, right? But the problem is that your parents said, oh, well, that doesn't make any money, right? You have to go get a law degree. So this actually kind of eliminates that whole thing out of your life, and you can start taking your purpose into your own hands, because financial independence is not it's not about the money, right? This is about the time. It's about financial independence. A big sort of criticism of the movement is, wealth is evil. That's kind of what we're trained to believe growing up. And so kind of the pursuit, it's just thought of as the pursuit of money. Whereas it's not about money at all. It's about the pursuit of money as a tool to then be able to buy our lives back, hence buyinglifeback.com. So yes, financial independence is about time. It's not about money. Jim Rohn once said, time is more valuable than money. You can get more money, you cannot get more time. And I would argue that, again, just reinstate it in more words, time is the most valuable. It's also the most finite resource that we have on earth. And so financial independence is all about understanding that and using that. So in the early stages of buyinglifeback.com, I started designing merch, shirts, hoodies, and stuff, phone cases. This is one of the early designs. This is actually my favorite one, and this kind of encapsulates what financial independence is all about. I will read it to you guys shortly. To buy life back is to intentionally pursue financial independence, to then be able to experience life to the fullest in every waking moment, to be fully present with our loved ones and all those around us, to be intentional about discovering the life we were always meant to live, to dream bigger and aim higher, to make the most of our time here on earth and focus on what truly matters to us, to uncover our true purpose and to start working towards it, to begin having an impact on the world around us, to realize the vast extent of our full potential, and to buy life back is to stop merely existing and to start living. And that, my friends, is where real estate comes in. And so I'm going to be talking to you now about why real estate over other asset classes. Why not the S&P 500? Why not GameStop, right? GameStop was fun for a couple of months. So why real estate? I'm going to argue that real estate is, bear with me here, the ideal investment vehicle because of this acronym here. There's 5 reasons why. That's going to be income, depreciation, which is not the opposite of appreciation. It's actually a tax benefit. We'll talk about that. Equity, appreciation, and leverage. Income is just another word for cash flow, but cash flow didn't fit in the acronym. So rent minus all your expenses is going to be your cash flow. This is a real-life example on a duplex 3 streets down on Chestnut that was on the market. And this, I ran these numbers at a price different than the listing price because it was listed way over what it should have been, which is why I think it's still on the market. But 2 units, and you can see that top kind of line there is the income, how we calculate income. So 2 units, both renting at $1,500 a month. I believe they were both 3-bed, 2 baths. giving us total rental income of $3,000. We also take away a 5% vacancy factor because not all units are going to be full all the time. There's going to be turnover, and so that's just a way to kind of account for that turnover. And these are rough numbers. This is just to give you guys an idea of what cash flow looks like and where it all goes. Those are the monthly operating expenses. You got property management, repairs and maintenance, which is just again like a percentage factor just to estimate all the utility bills and all that stuff. You also have your monthly mortgage payment down here with a grand total of monthly cash flow at $365 a month, which isn't huge, right? It's not game changing, but once you start accumulating more and more real estate, it starts to add up. And really the cool thing here is also with this number, you see the cash on cash return is just right at around 11%. In order to calculate the cash on cash return, we have to know how much cash actually went into it. I believe when I ran these numbers, I was doing a owner-occupied loan at I think 3 or 5% down, which is really low, and that sounds really low. And the reason is we'll get to why I did that actually in one of the strategies. But putting less money down into the deal actually helps your returns. So that's why the return is so high there. Enough about that. So depreciation can be thought of as just tax benefits. Again, didn't fit in the acronym. So some examples is depreciation, 1031 exchange, and the capital gains exemption. Just real quick, so the U.S. government actually uses the tax code to incentivize certain behavior in the private industry. And real estate is a great example of that. They allow us to take, for example, depreciation. So you accounting majors are going to be 3 steps ahead of me on this, but depreciation is the wear and tear of a real asset over time. And so the IRS allows us to write that off on paper against our income, even though you and I both know that real estate goes up in value over time in the long term. And so this is actually a great benefit for us to be able to offset a lot of our income through depreciation. Another example is the 1031 exchange, which allows us to trade up in value properties while deferring the capital gains tax on properties. Again, and this is just kind of an overview, so I'm not going to go too far into these. But the capital gains exemption is probably one that we're all, at least, sort of familiar with. Even if you don't know that you've used it, you probably used it. When you live in a house for 2 out of the last 5 years, you can sell a house and be exempt from any capital gains that you may have incurred on that house. But again, yeah, so these are the tax benefits that the IRS uses in the tax code to incentivize us to invest in real estate, because they'd rather us invest in real estate and provide affordable housing for people than they. They tried it, didn't work, and so they want us to do it, and this is how they incentivize us to do it. E stands for equity. So again, accounting majors are going to shine here. The value of the property minus any debt on the property is going to be your equity in the property. And over the life of a hold of real estate, your equity tends to increase both from appreciation and mortgage paydown. So when you're getting a rent check and some of it is going to the mortgage payment, part of that mortgage payment is paying off the principal of the loan, which is increasing your equity in the property, which goes straight onto your balance sheet and is increasing your net worth. There's a quick example up there over a 10-year hold of a $500,000 property. Basic assumptions are 3% annual appreciation, and then you can see up on the top the mortgage assumptions, which get factored into the principal paydown. But over 10 years, in year 1, you have $100,000 in equity in the property, assuming you paid a 20% down payment. Over the 10 years, that grows into $350,000 in equity just through 3% appreciation and also principal paydown of the mortgage. So that's one wealth generator. The other one is appreciation, which we just touched on a little bit. There's 2 sources of appreciation. There's natural appreciation, which is the natural tendency for real estate to kind of track inflation. Sometimes it outperforms it. But it's a good hedge. That's why real estate is a great hedge against inflation. Also because of rent growth and stuff as well. So your income also tracks inflation. Also, kind of another reason for natural appreciation is the supply and demand. As supply grows, a lot of times demand does not meet it, does not grow at the same rate, and so therefore there's a slight appreciation of real estate prices. The next one is my absolute favorite, and that is forced appreciation. And this is one that kind of sets real estate apart from other asset classes. There's not a whole lot, well, there's there's not a whole lot of examples of this in other ones, in other asset classes. Two examples of forced appreciation would be arbitrage, and then everyone knows, like renovations. Like you've seen house flippers on HGTV, stuff like that. Arbitrage is the idea of finding inefficiencies in the real estate market, finding a property that might be listed for way under market for whatever reason, or finding a property that's not listed at all, going direct to seller, and coming to a deal that way, which kind of, so an example of this would be, and it sounds crazy, but this happens every day. Finding a $100,000 house and purchasing it for $80,000. It happens every day. And it's not always that there's a winner and a loser in that transaction. Sometimes the seller's in a very motivated position. Maybe sometimes, maybe it's a pre-foreclosure situation where they don't have a choice, or maybe they have a loan where it's coming due and they want to get it off. Maybe it was an inheritance. Just all kinds of examples like that. There's plenty of inefficiencies in the market, which I would argue does not exist in like the stock market and stuff like that. And so this is where real estate kind of shines, and then also renovations, buying a fixer-upper, extracting value through renovations and creating a spread there, which again, HGTV, flipping, whatever it's called, any of those house flipping shows, there's like 20 of them. And the last one is leverage. This is also where real estate gets set apart from other asset classes. And we talked about this again, but leverage is basically just the ability for us to buy real estate using debt. And debt might sound bad. If you guys, to a lot of people, debt, turn around, run away. But debt can be a great thing, especially in terms of real estate. There is such thing as good debt. And there's no better example of good debt than a piece of cash flowing property that is backed by debt at a fixed rate. And that's because, I'll tell you why. So if you guys had $100,000 to invest in real estate, would you buy one $100,000 house outright and own it, no debt? Or would you leverage a $500,000 house with a 20% down payment and an 80% loan? If you guys think about this, I would tell you to think about equity, the tax benefits, and the appreciation that we just talked about. I would argue that the answer is B, leverage the $500,000 house. The reason is, let's go through them one by one. Think about appreciation. If the housing market as a whole appreciates 3%, you would be experiencing a 3% appreciation on a $500,000 asset versus a $100,000 asset. That's $15,000 versus $3,000. Okay, so there's that. Tax benefits, writing off the depreciation on a $500,000 asset is a lot more, roughly 5 times more, than a $100,000 asset. So there's that. Also, you have equity. So you are now using, when you buy a house outright, if you chose option A, you would be eliminating mortgage pay down. So one of those two things that increase equity over time is you're now no longer making a mortgage payment that reduces your principal. Now, granted, your cash flow might be higher, but your cash on cash return, meaning your cash flow versus how much money is in the deal, would be less. And I'm not going to go into that, but that's just one of the return metrics that is important when investing in real estate. But so when accounting for, and that's a good, that sentence up there kind of encapsulates what I'm trying to say. Leverage multiplies all of the aforementioned benefits of real estate. All right. So now that we understand why real estate, let's talk about how, because that's kind of important, at least a little bit. So I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about, again, strategies in real estate, and also some case studies for each strategy. The first one is called house hacking. This is currently what I'm doing. This is one of the best things that you can do for your personal financial situation. The reason being is because housing is America's largest expense. On average, it's 33% of the average American's budget goes to either rent or a mortgage payment. And so what if we were able to minimize or eliminate that? Think about it. That's 33% more money in your pocket each month to then be able to invest, grow a business. So just basically, it's rocket fuel for your journey to financial independence. What it is it's kind of important. 2 to 4 unit property. This is one way to do it. There's a couple ways to do it. 2 to 4 unit property, living in 1 unit, renting out the rest. Another one would be just a big, 4 or 5 bedroom house, living in 1 room, renting out the rest. Same thing. The reason why this is so accessible and this is a great starter strategy First off, I mean, you're in the property. You're kind of hands-on management. You're getting a feel for property management, even if it's not something you want to do long-term. Gives you a great into the industry. Also, owner-occupied loans. This is what I was talking about. 3 to 10% down loans are available to you as an owner for an owner-occupied building. So that greatly reduces the amount of capital that you need to get in, and it's a great strategy. I would absolutely recommend. I mean, if you're thinking about your future, graduating college and starting your career, one of the first things you would want to do is to try and get into a house hack. I mean, and we'll get into, and you can reach out to me about books and stuff if you want to learn more about it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Here's a great example of it. So this is actually here in Cookeville again. So this is a couple that I met at an investor meetup, and this is their deal that they're doing currently. So they closed on this deal in December. It's a single-family house. What's cool about it is it has an unfinished basement. So what they're doing is they're spending just south of $30,000 to finish out the basement. They're going to live in the basement. They're going to rent out the top to traveling nurses. They're going to furnish it and do medium-term rentals to traveling nurses. They're going to get $2,000 a month in rent, and their cash. So they're getting $2,000 a month in rent. Those are their expenses, about $600 a month, and then the mortgage payment $1,900. So their monthly cash flow is negative $540, which doesn't sound incredible until you realize and you understand that their mortgage payment would have been $2,000 if they were just living in it by themselves. So they're actually saving $1,400 a month. Okay, so that's cool. So what does that mean for them over the next 5 years of their life on their net worth? So they're going to have $84,000 in savings. They're going to have just under $15,000 in principal pay down. Like, again, that's them paying down their mortgage over the next 5 years. Let's just, if we're putting natural appreciation at 3%, then almost $48,000 in natural appreciation. Forced appreciation, which is day one, they're actually like ARV is ARV after repair value. There we go. Of $300,000. So that is $40,000 right there in forced appreciation. So total, that's $186,000 impact on their net worth over the next 5 years. Total return on investment, because they only have $42,000 into the deal, is 440%, which annualized is 88% annualized return. So as soon as you guys find me a stock that can predictively give you 88% over the next 5 years, I'd love to have it. That'd be incredible. Thank you. So this is again, this is a great kind of a way to get in. The main thing, actually, the spotlight here is the 3% down. The down payment on this house was only $7,800 because that is an owner-occupied loan, only 3% down on this property because they're living in it. So that's huge. That's why the cash needed is only $42,000, and that's including their rehab of $30,000 and closing costs. All right, so next one is going to be BRRRR. It's going to stand for buy, rent, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. This is kind of our version of flipping a house. And which, let me just explain that real quick. The reason why I'm not talking about flipping houses today is because flipping is it's a transactional, I would argue that it's not investing in real estate. It's a great thing to do. If you are interested in real estate and you want to get some startup capital to then be able to invest in real estate, go flip a house. It's incredible. Especially, if you know what you're doing, then go do it. The reason I'm not calling it investing in real estate is because as soon as you stop flipping houses, that's it. You don't have any kind of residual income. There's no kind of equity you still have in anything. You're just buying and selling. So it's kind of like day trading, right? I would argue that day trading is investing. But this is kind of our version of flipping, right? So we're buying a house, we're rehabbing it, and then we're throwing a tenant in there. We're getting cash flow. Instead of selling it, we're going to refinance it. And what that means is we're going to the bank, we're getting a new loan on the property to then be able to pay off the old loan and have some left over for ourselves. And what's cool is what we have left over for ourselves is if you do it right, exactly or just around how much you put in. So you're getting all your money back out of the deal to then be able to turn around and go do it again. This is an incredible strategy if you can do it. Which again, here's another case study here in Cookeville. This is a guy that I met in an investor meetup. He's absolutely killing it right now. He's got 19 units, him and his business partner, in and around Cookeville. And so this is his most recent deal that he gave me the numbers for you guys. So he bought this property last May for $165,000. He had a $60,000 rehab budget, 20% down, which means his cash in the deal is 93 grand. So he's got 93 grand in the deal. Now watch what happens. After he renovates it, and it looks like this, he rents it out for $2,200 a month, 40% expense ratio, so those are the expenses, mortgage payment. He's cash flowing $410 a month. His cash on cash is 5%. It's not a home run or anything. Here's where it gets cool. So he goes and instead of selling it or just holding it, he goes back to the bank and he refinances. Now the property's worth almost $300,000. That's a $130,000 increase over a $60,000 rehab budget. Okay, that's cool. But here's why it's so cool is because, again, he's not selling it. He's going to the bank. He got it appraised. Now he wants a new loan. He's going to refinance. He's getting an 80% loan, this time on $300,000, which means that he's getting, he's getting that amount of a loan. He's paying off his old loan. That's what's left on the old loan. He now has $106,000 in his hand, and he only put 93 grand into the deal. He got paid 13.5 grand to do this deal, and he's still cash flowing. Granted, his cash flow is less because his mortgage payment's more. He's only cash flowing $100 a month, but it doesn't matter. His cash on cash return is infinite. He has no money left in the deal. In fact, he got paid to do the deal. That's incredible, in my opinion. So that's Burr, B-R-R-R-R. And this is another strategy. It's kind of a less tangible strategy. This is kind of a way for you guys to think about investing in real estate. If you know, like the 20-unit, apartment complexes are kind of over your head, or you just don't know where to start. Start with one. Get a single property, maybe a duplex, and then the next year, kind of maybe go for two. Get a duplex if you started with one. Get a fourplex if you started with two. This is a way to kind of exponentially grow your portfolio in proportion to kind of your level of comfort in real estate and your relationships in real estate. You can see the exponential growth happens as you become more comfortable, again, with real estate, as you start building relationships with realtors, lenders, insurance guys, stuff like that. So it's a kind of it's when you see people with 20-unit buildings and you wonder how they got there, they normally follow a thing like this. They didn't go out and buy a 40-unit property day one, right? All right, so the next one is partnerships. Partnerships are huge, especially as you get into larger apartment complexes, that's kind of where I'm gearing towards. That's where I'm at, but it doesn't matter where you are. Like the guy in the Burr example, him and his business partner, they buy triplexes and quadplexes, and like I said, they're at 19 units, and they partner. So you need three things to get into real estate, right? Knowledge, time, and money. But you actually only need two. And when you have two, the third one can naturally be drawn to you in the form of a partnership. Let's say, like us as college students, we have knowledge and we have time. We don't have six figures sitting in the bank. If you do, let me know. But what happens there is there's always someone out there. If you're able to brand yourself and market yourself, there is money out there that is looking for a return. A lot of times through real estate, and maybe wealthier people might have the money to invest in real estate. They just don't have the time. Maybe they don't even have the knowledge, but they know that they want their money in real estate generating these types of returns. Or maybe they have enough money in the stock market, they want to diversify into real estate. And so that is where we can come in and do that. And that's what Horizon 10 Properties is doing, coming in and doing that and raising money from investors to go and buy bigger complexes, which we'll talk about. And actually, we're talking about right now. So syndication. Syndication is the idea. This is where things get fun, in my opinion. For some people, they don't like this. It's too big, which is fine. Just kind of gauge where your comfort level is. But this is syndication. So syndication is where we as investors partner up and we pool money from either institutional investors like private equity firms or just very wealthy individuals. And we go and buy large commercial real estate, like big apartment complexes, or you can think of like the Gables or other 100+ unit complexes. If you're wondering like who's out there buying these things, this is it, syndication. So as the general partners, the people that are doing the work, the sponsors of the deal, they're responsible for acquisitions. So this is kind of where I'm at in the business, trying to find deals, trying to analyze deals. Also, once you find a deal and it works, raising the capital for the deal. So going out to the private equity firms or going out to the high net worth individuals, trying to raise the money for the asset. And then investor relations, investor reporting, all stuff like that, accounting. And then limited partners, this is kind of an avenue for you guys to think about if this maybe sounds like you, where you want the returns of real estate, but all of this is flying over your head right now. And maybe you just want to be able to write a check to somebody, take my money, throw it in real estate, and give me my return. This is where limited partners come in. These are the high net worth individuals. This is the institutional investors that we raise money for or from. And so basically, if you guys wanted to go the limited partner route, you find a sponsor that you trust, that you know and trust, and you, when they have a deal that they're raising money for, when they find, let's say I wanted to go buy the Gables, right? I found the Gables, we agreed on a price. I don't know how many units it is. Let's just say they're going to sell for $10 million. So now I've got a $10 million property. I probably need a 30% down payment and maybe some renovations. I have to raise $4 million to buy this. That's where I go out to investors. I go to private equity firms, maybe insurance companies, other institutional investors, try to raise capital for the building, then be able to buy it, hold it for 3 to 5, maybe 3 to 10 years, sell it, provide a return to my investors, both in the form of cash flow and at the end when we sell it. Again, sorry, I'm getting excited. All right, this is real life example. Actually, I don't know why I came up with an example. I have one right here. So this is somebody that I met at a conference. This is his last deal. Closed on it in November. It's a 40-unit building in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And so this is what it looks like. This is what he sent out to all of his investors to try to raise money for it. And he did. And he closed it in November. So these are what the returns look like. Target investor IRR, 20.68%. Equity multiple, just about 2x, meaning that they're going to double their investors' money over the hold, which is 5 years. Minimum investment, $25,000. So sponsor co-invest, that just means that the sponsor's putting in 5% of the capital themselves. So it means that they have skin in the game, right? They're not just, it kind of helps, keep investors feeling good about the deal and making sure, kind of puts them at ease, right? 8% preferred return, which means that the sponsors aren't making a dime on the deal until the investors make 8% of their money. Once they make 8% of their money, then the profit split starts. It's usually either 80-20 or 70-30. And then they're also raising just about $1.2 million to buy that deal. Or they raised, right? They did it. The property was closed. Here's another one. So this is actually a property that went full cycle, so we can kind of compare actuals versus projected. And this guy is absolutely killing it. This guy, his name is Rob Beardsley. He's like 25 years old. He started Lone Star Capital in 2019, and he's had $350 million in acquisitions since then. So, I mean, that's, I don't want to talk about it. All right. This guy, so this is a deal that went full cycle, and this is a case study that he now sends out to his investors for the new deals that he's trying to raise money for. So, hey, look what we did, right? So this is what he did. So purchased the property, I believe it's 160 units in Houston, $11.5 million. Total capitalization is 12.7, meaning that he put in 1.2 for renovations. And then, so the acquisition debt, $9.3 million, which means he basically got a loan from the bank for $9.3. Equity, he had to raise $3.4 million from investors. And this is what he projected when he was raising that type of money. He said, hey, look, we should be able to give you guys a 19.4% IRR. We should be able to provide you guys with a 1.67% equity multiple, meaning that we're going to 1.67x your money. And then also we should have a cash on cash of 8.5, meaning that the monthly cash flow distributions should be 8.5% of your invested capital. And we're also going to hold it for 5 months. So what actually happened is they got an incredible offer 34 months into the deal. And they were able to refinance, I think like 12 or 14 months into the deal, which helped the IRR, again, because of the timing of the distributions. Again, this is probably too much. But so what happened is the actual project IRR was 37%, which is incredible. 2.24% or 2.24x equity multiple, and they achieved right on target 8.53% cash on cash, and they only held the deal for 34 months. So if you would have invested in this deal as a limited partner, let's say you wrote him a check for $100,000. Again, he raised 3.4, so there would have to be 340 of you guys doing that. but he did. So that's what he. I'm sorry, that has to be 34 if you guys doing that. You would have received a 37% IRR over the 34 months. You would have 2.24x your money. So at the end, when it's all said and done, you would have gotten 224 grand back after giving him 100. And then your cash on cash, meaning that your monthly distributions would have been on average 8.53%, or what is that, 8,500 annually. So that's syndication. So now that we've kind of talked through the strategies, then like next is to kind of create a plan. And in order to create a plan, we have to start creating a plan with where we started the presentation, which is your why. What is your why? Why do you want to build meaningful wealth? What do you like? Maybe like what are the causes that kind of you'd want to be able to contribute to, or maybe spending time with your family. Travel is a big one for me. So centered around your why, what's most important to you, and then using that, maybe what kind of strategies are we going to use to start our real estate investing career? Maybe we're going to start with a house hack and then go into just regular buy and hold, or maybe we're going to dive straight into syndication. Maybe we don't want to touch a piece of real estate ever, and we're just going to write checks as an LP, as a limited partner, to sponsors like myself, to be able to do the syndications that I was just talking about. Or maybe we have a business partner already and we're going to do partnerships, and maybe we just want to get to 10 rental units, and that'll be fine, and that'll fund our lifestyle. Right, so just kind of start with the end in mind, and also center it around your why for building meaningful wealth. And then once you do that, then you can kind of realize what target metrics are most important to you. If you're really just trying to fund your lifestyle and you want a certain amount of coming in every month, then your cash on cash is going to be most important. Right? You want to know that if you have $1 million invested somewhere and you're earning you want a 10% cash on cash in order to make $100,000 a year in passive income. Otherwise, maybe you just want to double your money every 2 years. Then your equity multiple is most important to you. So it's just starting with your why, picking a strategy, then picking an asset class, and then understanding the right return metrics. Again, next steps here is self-education. It's huge, especially if you want to be able to get to the point where you want to partner with people. And these books are awesome. I've read all of them, and many more. If you want to reach out to me and ask me, where to get started. These are a great place to get started, but do also reach out to me. I mean, if you're interested in investing in real estate, I'd love to sit down with you and just talk. I can talk for hours, so you have to tell me to shut up, but Bryn knows that. But yeah, so just again, self-education, the podcast, listening to the books, just understanding the lingo at the very least, being able to have an intelligent conversation with somebody is huge. And then further, if you really want to grow your business and this is something you want to do full time, which again, it doesn't have to be, right? Where our conversation started was, if this isn't something, this doesn't have to be your full time job. This can be something you do on the side, and just grow it, slowly until it funds your lifestyle to where you can really go do what you want to do full time. You can do it full time without having to worry about how much it pays. And this one is the absolute most important. Is your mindset. Your mindset is huge. You can have all the education in the world. If you don't think that you can do something, or if you have some kind of limiting belief, you will never even try to do it. This is something that I've actually battled over the last 24 months hard, and I've broken wall after wall after realizing this. Is your mindset is quite literally, guys, the only thing that's limiting you. That's the reason why I'm underwriting 100+ unit properties now. Whereas if you would have asked me a year ago what I was going to do next, it was probably going to be buy a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex. Now I'm not looking at anything under 20. So it's really just who you surround yourself with, which is why I have that quote there from Jim Rohn. Right? You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and this is 100% true. Going to real estate conferences has been huge because when I'm there, I'm surrounded by upwards of 1,500 people that just do real estate at a high level. They are entrepreneurs. They are people that have no limiting beliefs whatsoever. And so when you have a problem, they've solved the problem 20 times over. And so they can just kind of and what happens is they naturally bring you up to their level. And so surrounding yourself with people that are doing what you want to do is huge. It's probably the most important part. Those are 2 books for changing your mindset. Vivid Vision is a book about being very intentional about where you're going. It actually tells you to create a vision board of in 10 years, I think it's either 5 or 10 years, what exactly is your life going to look like? Include pictures, include very descriptive words, sentences. This isn't just cut out a couple magazine pictures. I mean, this is really like sit down. What does your life actually look like? And what that does is psychologically shifts the way that you see the world. And so you start to see, and this is getting into the psychology of it, but you don't see, when you look at when you, like what you see, you don't see things. You see either things that help you get towards what you're going towards or things that are blocking you. And so the key there is what you're aiming at. When you change what you're aiming at, then you change, again, how you see everything. You start to see certain opportunities that were always there that you never really noticed. The example there is the red car thing, right? When you go buy, like any kind of car, you buy a Tesla, and all of a sudden everyone and their mother has a Tesla driving around. The real thing, like in reality, the Teslas were always there. You're just now focusing on them. And so what you focus on in life, you attract. That's the law of attraction, and that is 100% true. That's very, very important to understand. And then do the impossible, again, is also about mindset. It also takes it a step further, which kind of backs out, if this is mindset, this is frame. The way that you frame your world and your surroundings is even more important than mindset. It actually dictates your mindset. So those are both great books. And again, there's more books. Reach out to me if you want recommendations. And that is it, guys. I want to give one of you guys a free shirt. If you guys follow my real estate page, Buying Life Back on Instagram, then I'm going to cross-reference people that signed in and my followers, and I'll give one of you guys a free shirt with that cool design on it. Unless you want another one on the website, just let me know. I'll give you that one. But the QR code is going to take you to, I think, a Linktree, which should have the Instagram in there. And if you guys didn't sign in the beginning, let me know. I'll go back later, and we can do that. But that's all I got for you guys. Appreciate you. Thank you. You guys have any questions or anything? I'd love to. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where's your investors group at? Like, where do you go to meet?
Yeah. So there's a Cookville investor meetup, and they don't meet very often, which is the thing. I think we have one coming up this month, around the 20th. If you want, give me on Instagram, send me a DM or something if you want to go, and you can come. It's like 15 or 20 of us. Everyone from people that are beginners that don't have any property, all the way to people that have. I mean, there's one guy there named Michael who has 20-something units all around here, and he's got 3 guns. Do what?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Do you get the real estate investors in Nashville?
Ren. I went to my first Ren event in November. Actually, my first and only, because it was a free one that I got invited to. And I didn't sign up for the actual thing, but I think it'd be a great resource. I think it's like $300 a year, and they have I think they have like bi-weekly events. So I've actually been looking at that, but I haven't done it yet. Yeah. PJ?
Okay, so let's say the housing market crashes.
Sure.
In like 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And you just invested, let's say, in 10 houses, then $100,000 a house.
Yeah.
Basic. So, what do you do in that situation where those maybe your tenants then can go out and now buy a house?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so well, to answer your last part of your question first is that wouldn't happen because in a housing recession, well, it might happen, right? But the reason why that wouldn't be the first thing that happened is because in a housing recession, while prices come down, lending gets very, very strict. It's very hard to get loans. So it's one problem or the other. Right now, we're having a hard time finding deals. Or I would just say 12 months ago, we were having a hard time finding deals. We couldn't find any deals that made sense. But the lending market was incredible, right? Interest rates were around 2 to 3%. So we can get any kind of debt that we wanted. We just couldn't find the property. And then if you look back on like 08, where you might be thinking to yourself, man, if I was around in 08, dude, I would have bought everything around. The problem with that is the lending market again was very strict. They weren't giving loans out to just about anyone. So it'd be very hard for the problem that you would run into isn't that your tenants are leaving and you don't have a rental market, because rental markets actually get stronger during a recession. People, unfortunately, especially in a housing crash, when they start to lose equity in their house, foreclosure might happen and then they have to go rent. So the rental market actually stays pretty strong in certain asset classes during a recession. But to answer your question, the scarier part of what you're asking is the real estate market crashes in 3 to 4 years. It might happen sooner than that with what's happening right now. But and you just bought 10 properties. The thing you have to understand is you never lose money until you sell. Or if you're, and this is the, and leverage is a double-edged sword, right? So you don't want to be over-leveraged. You don't want to have, you don't want to go buy a $20 million property and be leveraged, 95% to where if the value drops anything more than 5%, you now are underwater. Which again, as long as you can weather and you can make the debt payments, you don't have to worry about that because the bank's not going to come and foreclose if you're making your payments, right? So that's where you have to go in very conservatively and say, all right, this might happen in the next 4 years. What if occupants? Well, it depends. I mean, if you're looking at small properties versus big properties, but yeah. So the principles are the same. What if occupancy drops to 80% or 70%? Are we still going to be able to make the debt payments? If not, how much more money do we have to raise? Again, this is for bigger stuff. How much more money do we have to raise to be able to make those debt payments in case something like that happens, so that we can weather that storm and wait for the next cycle to come? So it's about being proactive on that side. But again, if you're just buying 1 to 4 unit properties, then having a strong financial position and reserves to be able to make the debt payment. Like if let's just say all four of my units were empty and I still had to make that mortgage payment, I want to make sure that I have enough reserves to make that mortgage payment for a certain number of months in the worst case scenario. Because as soon as you miss a mortgage payment, right, and then foreclosure, that's when you get in trouble. And especially when you're over leveraged, that can become a very real problem very quickly and be a problem. Yeah, that's a good question. Any question about anything at all? I know that was a lot. I just waterboarded you guys with information.
If there's no other questions, let's thank Jaden again for coming and speaking.
Thank you guys.